So it's 5:02. We have two guests, so I think we're going to go ahead and start. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight. This is featuring LearningWorks Charter School, presented by Dr. Mikala Rahh, who is head of the LearningWorks Charter School. This is a part of Discover Your Career Path for One City, One Story. This is our 19th year, One City, One Story, and we featured the book Tattoos on the Heart by Father Boyle. Thanks to the friends of the Pasadena Public Library, we've been able to distribute these books for free to the public. So if you don't have a book, or if you know somebody that really needs to read the book, that wants to know about Father Greg Boyle and Homeboy Industries, I would encourage you to contact your favorite branch library. All the branch libraries have copies as of now, as well as Central Library. The only two that aren't doing curbside are Hill and Villa Park, and you can request curbside to pick up a free copy of Tattoos on the Heart. Tonight's program is being recorded. Thank you to Dr. Mikala for allowing us to do this. The advantage of that is that we put it on the Pasadena Public Library YouTube channel, and people that weren't able to come today can review it later. They can go back and write things down if they've missed something. So it's a wonderful opportunity for them to re-see all of these different programs. So let me introduce Dr. Mikala for you. First of all, I know you all know, because you're here, how to get into our programs. You go to the Pasadena Public Library website, news and notices to the months off the shelf. Also, we have a job resource guide, and all of these programs and information contacts are being put into the jobs resource guide. So if you know of anyone that wants to know more about any of these programs, please have them go to YouTube, Pasadena Public Library, or on our website to our job resource guide. So Dr. Mikala Rahh is the CEO and founder of Public Works and has extensive experience in the areas of school improvement, curriculum, assessment, teacher professional development and support, juvenile justice, intervention and prevention programs, and workforce development. She is a fabulous resource to our community. She runs Charter LearningWorks School. It has succeeded in stemming the tide of dropouts using a core set of principles and unique tools developed by Dr. Mikala Rahh. The school focuses on the needs of students the mainstream educational system does not address, including dropouts, probation youth, and pregnant and parenting teens. It serves hundreds of high-risk youth at both the Pasadena main campus and the Resource Center located at Homeboy Industries in Boyle Heights. So with that, I'd like to welcome Dr. Mikala Rahh. It's a privilege to have you with us tonight to talk about everything that you've done to help our community and our youth. Thank you and welcome.
That is really nice. And I love that we are doing these and recording them as a resource for others. Full disclosure, Marilyn goes to my church, so she's my buddy. So I didn't know she's coming, but I'm glad because I know she wasn't at the book group that we had with Father Greg on Tuesday at our church. So now you're stuck with me, Marilyn. You're muted, Marilyn. You're muted.
I was calling people. So, but I was leading the planning commission for Arcadia that night, so I couldn't very well do both of them. So.
Well, I'm glad you're here. So I'm going to do this like a TV program where I'm going to record it and have some videos. And I'm glad. Thank you for the two that I don't know that are here. I'm really grateful that you're here. So I'm just going to kind of give an overview. We are in Pasadena, so give an overview of who we are and how this whole thing started. And then I will break it up with a couple of videos I have that I really like, that I think they're short, but they sort of tell who we are. So gosh, I don't know, long back, I was at UC Berkeley and my husband said, we're going back to Pasadena because people do not leave Pasadena. It's what I'm learning. And so 20 some odd years, we came back, and eventually I was doing research and consulting on all kinds of education issues through Berkeley. And when we got here, I continued to do that, and then decided with a 1-year-old, it was time to make my real roots here. And so I created a research firm called Public Works. And for years, 25 years, I think my son's 25, we've been doing research in the areas of education, social service, workforce development. And so through that, I've got to see a lot of programs over the years, which has been great. And in developing that nonprofit, I had made a decision that researchers shouldn't be disconnected from practice. So I would have the researchers research during the day, and then by 4 o'clock, they would transition to what at that point we called Learning Works, but it isn't, it's called Community Works now. So that's what I'll call it. And so Community Works is a tutoring center still alive today for, well, pre-virus. We'll get to the virus soon. But Community Works is a tutoring program, enrichment program for kids in the school district that don't have support. It's a kindergarten through 12th grade program where we can help do intervention or enrichment or test prep, all for very, very like $10 an hour. And so the idea was researchers would go work with kids and keep that connection so that research was not disconnected from families or practice. So that's how I started and thought I was headed on that path when what I will say, which is where we'll get to the Homeboy connection, where I think God took me for a left turn. And I was a reluctant left turn, but I started to meet high school dropouts in our community. I was studying high school dropouts in 60 schools throughout the county, not just our county, San Bernardino and LA Unified. And so I was looking at these pyramid charts where the kids start, they go in, and then they disappear. And so like in an LA Unified school, you might graduate 55% of the bottom 9th grade class. And so I said, gosh, what's going on in our community? And at that point, we were at 24.8% dropout, which was unbelievable to me in a community that has so many resources. And so when I was meeting these kids, it got very personal. This was a wilderness chapter for me in 2005-06, where I knew I would take a youth I'd meet, walk them back into PHS and say, teachers, will you take them back in November? And they would say, nope, bring them back at the semester break. They've lost too much content. Now that makes sense to me because teachers don't know if you've got students that were there the whole time. What do you do with someone that walks in November? They just get a pass? No. And so it was clear to me we needed a different kind of program. So I went to the district. This was when Percy Clark was here, and decided to talk him into having a dropout prevention program at the actual place I was at with Public Works and Community Works. This got all convoluted because I had homeless kids living on my couch. I was learning about probation. I was had a small child and a middle schooler, and so we were tutoring kids till all hours of the night, and it was a learning experience, and it changed my life. From there, we decided that this was too much. The district would still have trouble keeping the kids in the school, even though they were not supposed to drop out the dropouts. And so Learning Works decided with my nonprofit board to charter Learning Works. And at that time, I snagged Dr. Eddie Newman, who had finished her time at Muir and her time at the district, and said, you got to help me start this school. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And so she was with me in the beginning, and we had that time with the district to play with these ideas and these concepts. And that's what then birthed Learning Works Charter School when in 2008, I think I'm in my 13th class. We've graduated now over 1,000 kids. But I want to describe sort of what happened in that model. So as I'm learning the ropes on these very high poverty kids, I had only dealt with kids that maybe go to community college or college. These high school dropouts come in different forms. And so I was learning about probation youth. I was learning about homeless youth, drug addiction, teen parents, you name it, foster care. The range was quite wide. And what I want to say about these, because many will say, well, why aren't they going to Rose City? I mean, right? That's a continuation school. These are kids far past that. They are far past Rose City, in that they have lost all their habits. They don't get out of bed, or the parents might think they're getting out of bed because they left to go. The one I'm thinking about, mom would get up at 5 a.m. to go to a factory job. Well, she never got the messages that he was never there. So, 4 months later, he's still at home. Or someone who gets hooked on smoking too much pot, and then they just have no motivation. And so there's a lot of different forms of high school dropouts. And I've learned, even going forward, bullying, big reason too, people who are bullied, and you have to get to the underneath it. Why are you not going to school? And so we created a program for kids that have lost all habits. And what does that mean? That means they wouldn't go to Rose City 3 to 4 hours a day. They're not going to show up. So I have to create a program that's more like a college. It's organized almost like college chaos. Everybody's in a different class, and you only have 2 classes to start with intensely, to then go to all the experiences associated with those classes. So an example would be in biology. You're doing your biology text, but you're coming to, I'm talking pre-virus, by the way, we'll get to the virus. You would come to all your labs on Thursdays, all your biology labs. So if you were in social studies, you'd know you have to go to a social studies lab on Tuesday, and your field trip takes off on Wednesday. And so I created a curriculum that was textbook, projects, and experiences. And it's run by rigor, they can do the work, relevance, how does it connect to their life? How does it connect to the community? And relationship. They will do anything if they have a relationship with the people in the school, which they have not had great experiences with adults before they get to us. So the 2 things that make us different, and then I'll get to all the other works, but I want to just focus right now on learning works. The 2 things that make us different, in my opinion, are we have this job title called chaser. And so a chaser does exactly what it says, chase kids. Every teacher has a chaser. They manage a load of about 32 to 35 kids. The chaser's job is to make sure they're doing the credits that they're supposed to be doing. And a chaser is following what kind of experiences those students need based on the curriculum. And their one goal is get them to the stage for high school diploma. We say we're not social workers. We are educators that know that these kids have not had the strongest background, family supports. They haven't had good experiences with the systems. They haven't had good experiences in school. And so our job is to bridge them back to education. And that means the chaser is sort of bringing them back to a teacher and saying, this is an okay place. We're going to treat you well here. And that the chaser really is that bridge. And that means with our no excuses policy, they might need to get the kid to a doctor's appointment. They may need to show up for a home visit. We might figure out, I'm not kidding you, we've had kids walk in their shoes. Their shoes are awful. They have no soles. So, okay, we're going to get a pair of shoes. And so the chaser's job is to sort of get rid of any excuse that gets them to that high school diploma, because my belief is that everybody in America deserves a chance to get a high school diploma. We don't do GED. There's a lot of reasons for that, but a diploma is very doable. GED is test driven and often scary to folks. I might be the only one in California with a PhD and a GED because I took it just to see how hard it is. It's hard. It's not an easy step. So, but anyway, so we do high school diploma. So the chasers are a crucial part of our model. You'll see our purple cars driving around Pasadena that the Pasadena Community Foundation helped us with. And then we have a set of principles, and our principles are very different than any other public school. I've often said to other schools, if only we had a code of ethics or a way of operating, a way of treating kids that wasn't authoritarian, wasn't top down. And the generations have changed. We're over the authoritarian model. It's gone. And so if we had a set of principles at schools that sort of treated kids, as Greg says, in kinship, in relationship, in I'm not going to learn more than, I'm going to learn as much from you as you're going to learn from me. That's the approach that LearningWorks has. And so I fast forward, we are the school at Homeboy Industries in Boyle Heights, and we're the school in Pasadena. We're kind of near the east side in Target. The reason we are in that location, which is good, is that we're in non-gang territory in Pasadena. So we serve mostly Northwest students, but they come to a safe place and a safe haven. They feel good coming to the east side, which kind of lets the stress out. In Boyle Heights, we're in the middle of gang territory, and I'll talk a little bit about that later, but that's a little bit of different work. So what I'd like to do is pause, and I want you to hear the principles, and it's coming from some old school chasers. This has been here a while. I think we need someone who wants to be admitted.
Oh, yes, I'm letting them in.
Okay.
I got so fascinated listening to you.
Yeah,
I wasn't paying attention.
That's all right. So I'm going to share screen. I think this should work. We did a trial run, and I'm going to let my chasers tell you the principles of our school.
So right now, the chasers will be breaking down the principles for you. These are the words that every staff and student lives by.
Fresh start. We believe all people deserve a fresh start, free of judgment and labels.
Forgiveness and unconditional love. We believe that all people make mistakes, and it is our goal to always practice forgiveness and unconditional love. We start every single day fresh with new chances.
Safe haven. We believe our school is a safe zone regardless of age, race, gender, or any affiliation or other label in the community.
We are all equal, respectful, and tolerant at school.
Reality and potential. We focus on what is, not what ought to be, and always guide people to their fullest potential.
We bridge the gap between now and the future. Everybody has potential. Reaching it is about good habits and good commitments.
Desire to give back and to be heard. We believe all people want to be heard and also understood, and also give back to their families and communities. We encourage and provide these opportunities.
Honesty. We believe honesty is the best policy. We strive to live transparent lives.
Joy and fun. We believe in hard work and fun. Finding joy and passion is the key to happiness. Laughter helps us survive the suffering.
Irrational commitment to students. We are irrationally committed to each other's well-being. We need a community of support to succeed. We will not give up on people.
So those are us. Those are our principles that we try to share with the world, and we try to convince other places to have that same, well, I think it's irrational. We look like crazy people in a good way in a public school. But we really think that kids deserve fresh starts. They haven't had all the same starting gate. They didn't grow up with as much privilege as, some of us had. And racism is alive and well, and poverty is alive and well. So those principles guide all of our decisions. They guide everything that we do. So then from there, a little history. So started the school, didn't know what I was doing. Oh, I should point out, one of the people on the video is Robert, who said honesty is the best policy. He went through the MASH program and works for the city and is really one of their top employees. Yay, Robert. So we hope the chasers, transition in that as a step to the next place. But they all the chasers come from the same conditions as the kids. I do mostly now hire them through LearningWorks graduates. But that model still continues today. But what happened then, from there was that we went from starting the school with, by the way, a couple key guys who slept on my couch. One slept on my couch and one has had quite a great background. Dominic Corey, he was the start of the video, and he now is one of the representative he is a representative for Senator Portantino. I always say the birth of my two children and Dominic Corey, my chaser, are my greatest things. And Dominic, he's a two-striker. He was serious gang. So the fact that he's graduated with a degree from Cal State Poly Pomona and now works for Anthony Portantino, love it. I'm a big Senator Portantino fan. So from there, we started the school. So we have the research going, we have Learning Works going. We still have the Community Works where the kids are coming in the school just flips over, and now we're helping kids in the afternoon who are what I'd call either English learners or didn't qualify for special ed. That's a big group for us at Community Works. But from there, I drove around. I knew the kids needed passion. And so I'm actually sitting at this location at the end of Walnut across from the new Home Depot. And that is where I went to Victoria Rusnak, didn't know her, and said, I want to create an art studio. And we then created ArtWorks with Armory Center for the Arts, which in non-COVID times has screen printing, video production, all kinds of visual arts. And that was made possible by the Rusnak family. Paul Rusnak is a big supporter of ours, and Donna Pearson, who's married to Paul. So that happened. ArtWorks appeared. And then we asked for the lot next door because we're just greedy. And then they gave us the lot, and we have GrowWorks, which is right next door, a gardening program for the community and our students. It's beautiful. You got to drive by. And funny thing happened when Home Depot opened up. I'm losing my weeks. Last week, they called us and said, we're adopting you as our nonprofit. And so they gave us I was at the cutting ceremony with Councilman Gene Masuda, and they gave us a $5,000 check. And the next day they drove over a bunch of mulch. And the delivery guy said, because the manager, of course, knows us now. And the delivery guy said, well, where are we driving this to? And we're like, across the street. So GrowWorks is thriving. And then the last works that I have created at this point with an amazing team I didn't know this was going to hit me. So I created HopeWorks, which is a drop-in youth homeless program that has shower and facilities. We have washer dryer, we have meals. We still have to send them out, but strange week that we're having, that is when two people from PCC, including Carol Brown, who passed away this week, approached me, and we started students SOS. I'm not even going to get it right, but our concept was the kids at PCC could sleep in our school when they were homeless. And so it ended up being a lot more counseling. We've put a lot more people in hotels and tried to figure out why they got homeless. But HopeWorks and PCC work hand in hand with homeless youth. And that was really due to Carol Brown and a wonderful professor over there, Emily Hernandez. So those are the works we have right now. And that's what's going. The virus has been a challenge. So we've had to suspend Community Works and ArtWorks that we're going to reopen in the summer. GrowWorks has continued, HopeWorks has continued, Learning Works has continued. My staff, unlike other schools in the county, has been on site the entire virus. We can't stay at home. We need to work as teams to help these high-risk kids. These are not youth that are actually safe at home. You can imagine a few things. You can imagine 6 people living in a 1-bedroom. You can imagine the noise if they have an elementary sibling with Zooming. The violence has increased. We find this at Homeboy Industries. We've lost more people to violence in this time period than we have in years. And so our youth are really, if someone would have told me, they would say, I want to come back to school. So what I would, it would be funny. But what we have been doing in this pandemic is we have our school is not online, meaning our kids don't know how to access or do online curriculum. We've never gone there. We've always stuck to textbooks, projects, and field trips. And the field trips we went to 39 locations all over the county in small groups every single week. And so we took those experiences and had to make them virtual, but we're still dropping and picking up textbook work and project work. So the chasers had to gear up and be the pickup and drop off for these kids. And that meant we opened a pantry. So we were dropping off groceries at people's doorsteps. The kids are starting to come back for appointments. And after spring break, our priority is 8th graders to get them in person. 9th graders, because if they don't attain their credits, they are a dropout. So I got to be on my 9th grade group, which is about 30 kids. And then those on track to graduate. So they will be the priorities in our after break. Most of my teachers are almost double vaccinated in my staff. So that's kind of been the virus time, this idea of violence prevention, create a pantry, and home visits all the time. Those chasers are out there day in and day out trying to keep the kids on path to graduation, who are incredibly, in my opinion, we're going to be in a situation where we better start funding mental and health, physical health, because that is the #1 problem I'm seeing going forward, that we're going to have to really be on that issue. I'd like to pause. You can ask any questions in the chat. If you have any questions, please put them in. I know that I have support trying to field those questions. But I wanted to talk a minute about charter schools. Actually, before I talk about that, let me talk about the Homeboy Partnership, which is a little strange. So Father Greg and a wonderful woman over at Homeboy, Shirley Torres, were looking for a school that would be forgiving. And they found out about us, and I had known about them for about a year. And so what happened was this very strange year happened where they said, will you start a school here? And we started downtown in Bruno, where it's just kind of, if you've been to Homeboy, it's chaos. There's people everywhere. It's wonderful chaos. And there's a cafe. So we ended up deciding that we needed to move it to a more juvenile location. And so we moved it to First Street, one of the original Homeboy sites, in Greg's neighborhood. He lives over there, and it's First and State. And so what we did was create a more juvenile school. So we say we're one school, 2 sites at Pasadena and in Boyle Heights. Those sites are chartered by Pasadena Unified. So Pasadena Unified is both sites. And actually, Pasadena Unified got so innovative, they run all the adult programs at Homeboy Industries in Bruno. So PUSD is Homeboy's district, if that makes sense. They are the innovators for Homeboy Industries. And I love it. When we go into renewal, we need to give them credit for that, because it's not easy work working with high-risk youth, and they have stuck with it. So we have the 2 sites, and yet another thing I want to just bring up is Homeboy. I'm on their team as the Chief of Education and Research. So I straddle 2 hats that kind of merge, which is I have the chief at Homeboy and CEO of LearningWorks, but it's all the same work. It's all the same population. And so at Homeboy, we then applied for the Every Child Foundation, which is a huge award, and won it in November 2019, which is $1 million to expand the First Street work and do a youth re-entry model. And so now at that site, it's not just a school, it's a whole re-entry center with Homeboy and that youth re-entry center is under my chiefness, whatever that is. And it has 2 case managers, a navigator, a wellness specialist, an employment counselor, a director who's amazing leading the program. And so it's become this integrated youth reentry center that education, LearningWorks, is one of the components of all the services they can get. And that launched in 2020. So we're in the 2nd year of that work. And it's pretty amazing. So when it reopens, well, we are open. So, but don't think that in the virus you need to run down there. We are open doing service, hybrid programming, the whole thing. We've never really closed. But when the world reopens, I'm happy to tour any of you down there. It's a beautiful, beautiful center. So that's it. I just want to talk real quick about charters, because they don't get the best rap. And some of you know I was on the school board at Pasadena Unified for 2 years as an appointee. Learned a lot. Probably wouldn't do it again because it's a very, very hard job, and it's very political, and we know that. But charters are tricky in that some see them as taking kids away from the district. What they're really doing is the funding is following the student. And so what happens in PUSD when the students go to one of these charters, it reduces their amount of money they have to spend on the kids, right? And big systems are very difficult to be flexible in their expenses. So it's not like you can just say, okay, 100 kids went over here, so I'm going to chop 3 teachers. Well, they're in the union, they've been there a long time. It's a challenge. They're not flexible. And I would say this about any government agency. They're just not flexible in there. So some believe charters are not good because they take money away from districts. We aren't even in that conversation because we're picking up dropouts that weren't in school. So my relationship with the school district is wonderful. Because they know that the dropout rate's going to go down with every kid that I pick up. So when I started this, I said 24.8%. Well, we're down to 9.6% high school dropouts in Pasadena. That's pretty amazing. Wow. And so they get 2 things. They get the benefit of us picking up their dropouts when they go to expel someone, like someone brings a gun to school, someone lights off a firecracker, someone hurts a teacher. I mean, all things we don't want to happen, but in all school districts, these things happen. We take them, they call us, the board votes them towards us. And so then we take in that youth that needs to basically work on themselves, keep going with their education in a local setting. And we're really good at that. And then we try to return them to the district. And if they're not returnable, they're totally welcome to stay with us. So we are a very strange charter in that we're taking on kids that they didn't have before in their budget. We're taking on kids that they can't serve anymore because of some bad behavior. And so my partnership with them is really, really strong. That said, just a plug for, so a lot of people are very anti-charter because they want the traditional districts to deal with all kids. I will say the charters we have in our district are very, very good, but that doesn't fix the public policy debate on should there be a charter school or not. But I just wanted to point out there isn't the debate about LearningWorks. And so I was going to play you another video to on record at our last fundraiser to just sort of tell you what they have to say. Can you see this? Oh, yes.
Hello, I'm Scott Phelps, president of the Pasadena Unified School District Board of Education. I am pleased to be here today for LearningWorks virtual celebration. For more than a decade, LearningWorks has transformed student dropouts, and students have been expelled from PUSD into high school graduates. I was lucky enough to be involved in preparing and teaching science labs at LearningWorks when it first opened, so I'm familiar with its special method of operation. From its inception, LearningWorks has used a unique model of support for students. It includes young adult chasers to personally follow up on students at their homes or elsewhere in the community to help them get their assignments turned in. For a few years under grant funding, PUSD had a program using certain special staff positions to try to offer similar assistance to PUSD students, and this program may have helped PUSD graduate more students. During COVID and remote learning, PUSD is now emulating this as PUSD principals and other staff are doing home visits to try to help the increased number of students who are struggling with attendance, engagement, and grades. So LearningWorks was ahead of the curve with that service that may be necessary to help some students have a better chance to graduate high school. During the pandemic and our schools' shift to distance learning, LearningWorks rose to the occasion and partnered with PUSD to conduct home visits and reach out to students who had left PUSD or whose attendance or participation in online learning had dropped. This has helped PUSD learn more about the many challenges students are facing. I would like to thank LearningWorks for all you do for students, and I look forward to many more years of our successful partnership.
Okay, I think I did that right. Good. Come back to you guys because I can't see you. So I hope that helps. I mean, it's been a great partnership with Pasadena Unified, and that's just because we're just basically we all want the same thing. We want everybody to graduate with a high school diploma, but sometimes the traditional system can't do that. I mean, not last year, but the year before, we graduated 4 homeless kids that were literally living on park benches. How do you serve that? You know what I mean? Like, how it takes a unique relationship and a unique approach to be able to work with that youth and not have them embarrassed that they're going to come take a shower and we're going to shut down the room that we have a shower. And it's a very, very different. So the way I've ended up, a charter school should be doing something different or offering something different that the school district can't. And in our case, it's kind of an extreme example. And I'd like to say every district should be doing something like this, but what I've learned over time is it's the will of the people. My staff, myself, Homeboy, we have a lot of will to love and be with people. We have a lot of will to understand people's stories. We have a lot of will to be transformed ourselves. And so that will is what creates a different environment and a different program. But if you don't have that will, you're not going to have programs like Homeboy and LearningWorks, because that's why wouldn't anybody ask themselves, well, why aren't there a million Homeboys, or why aren't there a million LearningWorks? But it comes down to sort of the will and what it takes to pull off programs like this. I always say, and Greg does too, but hey, it's just about love. But I mean, I don't know, apparently that takes some will. So just love ugly behaviors and love yourself. And so, there you are. So I'm often asked though, sort of on outcomes. I hate that word, is hard for Greg and me, and yet I'm a researcher. And so what I would like to say about LearningWorks is when I started the program, I wouldn't have said this. And so you fast forward and now I say this. LearningWorks is really about community health. I didn't know that at the beginning. So what we're really doing is decreasing incarceration rates, increasing people with diplomas, which means more economic viability for jobs, and actually decreasing second-time births, because we're really good with those teen parents. So when you look at that indicator and you look at, I'm hoping to be able to look at some census data from 2020 now that it's out. We're really looking at how did Pasadena look in 2010 and how does it look in 2020? It's less about the individual outcomes. And I don't say that without understanding the individual outcomes matter, but what I'm saying is this kind of program, just like Homeboy is about decreasing violence and having people heal to be able to retain a job. They're not putting people in, we're not putting people in jobs, not anymore. That's not Greg's model. The model is healing yourself to then from all of these conditions of being demonized, growing up in high poverty, having violence around you. How do you heal from that in order to thrive? And the Learning Works program in the Youth Reentry Center is about catching it earlier so that we might not have 20-year sentences and intergenerational poverty. We're trying to catch it so that we're ending the cycle of intergenerational poverty. And I will say on an individual level, it's great. We do look at our outcomes. We do follow-up studies. But what I would say is most all of our kids end up going to community college. I think I've had 4 go straight to a 4-year university. I think it's the right path for them to be in vocational or community college. And they do end up being more employed at a higher rate than comparable populations. But again, I still come back to community health. We have less incarceration, less second births, more people employable for jobs, and that's a really good thing. And it's going to get worse again with the virus, meaning the diploma in times of high economic times is not as important. In times of, we're headed to more economic recession, which we think we will in a couple of years with this virus, the diploma is going to matter more, and the credentials will matter more as people sort for jobs. So that's my little spiel. I do want to show one success story that I have now always showed. Marilyn knows my Raul success story. And so Dominic obviously is a shining star. He's at, Senator Portantino. I have another chaser. If you want to watch our full event, it's on our website. So Monica grew up teen parent. Her mom was 14 when she gave birth to her. She was a chaser. She was a teacher with us. And now she's a MSW social worker at DCFS doing amazing things. So it does happen. We have another chaser, Kendrick, who is a trainer for the professional team. I don't even know it in San Jose. And so these stories do emerge. But let me give you this little story. Let's see if I can do it. I might have to go over here first. Yep. And then I'm going to go to, there it is. Okay. I don't see it, so I'm going to close screen. I'm going to go back to the Zoom. I love this technology stuff. I'm going to go back to share screen. And there he is. Here's the champion of the hour. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, we're going to get a commercial. We're going to get a commercial first, so let's try to get rid of that.
Journey you've never imagined.
5 more seconds.
Welcome to Arabia, Saudi.
Let's go.
Graduation is one of the most important moments in a person's life, certainly, and celebrating despite the pandemic was especially important for friends of a young man who's turned his life around. Eyewitness News reporter Eileen Frere shows us how they surprised him to honor that huge moment.
A parade to celebrate graduation day. A big surprise for Raul Zarate, who is graduating from Cal State Los Angeles with a BA in sociology.
You guys got me. I was not expecting this, for sure.
In this time of COVID-19 physical distancing, his coworkers at Learning Works Charter School in Pasadena wanted to make sure he was recognized. Zarate missed high school graduation. In fact, how he got here was not easy.
Incarcerated when he was 17 years old. He served 9 years of his 16-year sentence, and Governor Jerry Brown commuted his sentence. By the time he got out of prison, he had 4 AA degrees, had made the best of his time there. Really an exemplar.
Zarate began working for Learning Works a few years ago, a school for high-risk youth. In 2 years working full-time, Zarate earned his college degree.
He's a huge success story, and he gives back every day to the middle school, modeling, mentoring, coaching. And so we couldn't be more proud of him.
Zarate being honored by family, friends, even Pasadena police.
Seeing my mom, who didn't get to visit me while I was in prison for 8 years, really makes a difference today. To see her happy, for this accomplishment has been huge.
And Zarate's far from finished. He says he plans to get a second job and enroll in a master's program in the next year. His message to others?
Let kids know that it is possible. It is possible to reach your dreams and your goals.
Oh God, that just always kills me. Wait, I gotta figure out how to turn it off.
You've never known.
Let's see how to stop that one. Okay. This one. That just kills me. But it's possible, right? Good stuff. Really good stuff. And so overall, I mean, unless anybody has any questions, that's us. I was gonna see if anybody had any questions, and then I was gonna wonderfully end you on our slideshow, just so that if you want to fade away, you can. But it's a really nice little quick. Of course, all Marilyn knows this. All disclosure, it's my daughter's voice, but she's a lovely singer. So, does anyone have anything to add? And really, when we open up, please come visit us. Please, please, please. And I'm happy to give the tour myself and introduce you to Chasers. And then, but if you ever want to go to Homeboy or First Street, I'm there too. So those are my 3 pads that I'm at all the time. So
can you tell us a little bit more about SOS?
Yeah. So
like how many kids and
Sure. We did a fundraiser at Armory. Were you there, Marilyn?
I was there. I signed on.
Yeah. And so again, it's kind of raw for me because Carol Brown just passed on Tuesday, but one of the pictures floating around is of her and me and Fernando, who's a counselor at PCC, and Emily Hernandez, who's a professor. And so our idea was that I should ask someone here. SOS. We just always call it SOS. Students, something.
But didn't save our students?
No. I don't think it is. But that's terrible. But anyway, so the idea was this, that they couldn't at PCC, and I don't want to say too much about that, but there's a lot of liability issues with, homeless. And so they wanted to have a way in which they could refer homeless students to someone. And so we started a program where we said, we're going to just buy some cots. I love the bad weather shelter at Friends Indeed. I think they are amazing. And I've worked the bad weather shelter for years. And so I was just basically going to model it after that. The difference is, bad weather shelters like 88 beds some nights and not during the virus. And so how would we do this? How would we manage it? And so what we ended up learning with that experiment, and we did sleep in the school that year, but what we ended up learning was these were very individualized cases. They were people who wanted to sleep in their car or just had a fight with their girlfriend. So we ended up realizing it was way more of a counseling model than it was the bad weather shelter that Marilyn, I know you're familiar with, where these are chronically homeless. And we had some success. We had one student, for instance, that was having seizures, and it was awful. And we would have to backtrack. It was detective work. And it turned out because of his behaviors with his seizures and with his bad behaviors too, I'm saying, bad, in that he would act out, he ended up not really being able to stay with either parent. It got to that point. So we were backtracking. We were like, and getting all his medical records. And so this is a great example where no one's doing the social workers and everybody's not doing the background work. You got to keep going. And then we found out what he was diagnosed with. And then we found out he was hit on a bicycle when he was like 12 years old and basically hit by a car. And that created this whole series of mess. So we did get him to a facility, but we ended up working with his dad and getting him back home. And those were the kind of cases we were finding. Another guy that came in that we were working with, look, he actually did have a place, but there was a big argument with the girlfriend, and we'd have to go backwards to see how to get this person. And this is why this kind of early homeless work is very important compared to chronically homeless, because I've always said, if you can figure it out by 26, which is kind of the Tay money, if people know, then you can go somewhere with it. If you don't figure it out, you got chronically homeless. And that's why, I love the housing department wants this in Pasadena, but we do not have what's called a TAY shelter in the entire San Gabriel Valley, which is 30 to 60 days. If I had that, anyone eventually watching this video, I could place them in a 30 to 60 day facility and figure out that detective work and then get them placed. But we don't have that here. And it's my number one priority actually going forward now. So what the SOS money is now happens is, especially in the virus, they refer a student to us. We do that kind of counseling work. If it means we have to put them in a hotel, we do. If it means we have to backtrack and find the family member, we do. But it ended up not being bad weather shelter like, it ended up being counseling like. So that funding that we have in the reserve fund still exists for that population, and we will continue to do it. And then I really want to do something big in Carol Brown's name, because she just was all about this population, and she was one of the most beautiful souls in Pasadena. So we'll figure that out.
So there is a question in the chat. Are the Community Works programs only available for Learning Works students?
No, thank you. Community Works is open to the entire Pasadena and actually San Gabriel. So ArtWorks is free programming for middle and high schoolers. GrowWorks, we will always take any kid. They did a little Easter egg hunt this morning with our kids we're doing pods with of staff members. Community Works, actually most dropouts don't go to tutoring at 4 p.m. Fun fact. So Community Works usually has no one from Learning Works. It's all community students, and we serve about 300 through ArtWorks, and gosh, I think we surpassed that in Community Works. So no, we're gonna re-blast this once we can be more open, but all of those programs are open to anyone. And same with HopeWorks. We've had kids that weren't at Learning Works, but they were on the streets, and we're showering them, getting their clothes washed, and helping them out.
Well, your programs are absolutely fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. I hope you get your dream of this for the 2 or 3 months to house students, to sort it all out. I'm surprised that some agency or someone hasn't stepped up to try to help you do that. Or is it kind of in the works, or it's?
Well, we had it and then we lost it. So I have a donor that's very willing to fund it. And so I'm working with Bill at the housing. I'm close to him. And so we're going to figure this one out. And so we launched the reentry center. My entire effort now is on Pasadena needs this youth housing. And I do think Pasadena would get behind it. Councilman Gene Masuda was totally behind it. And so I see it happening. Well, I'm just going to end on a slideshow then. Is that okay?
Perfect. First of all, before
ask, do you have another question?
Yeah, before you do that, how will we be able to connect to you later for a tour or whatever?
Write down my cell phone. Ready?
Yeah.
Everybody on the video, 626-688-7961. 626-688-7961. Anytime. Even if you just want to follow up and talk, if this moves you in some way. Okay?
What?
We got to stay connected, people. We got to stay connected.
Well, before you show us your final video, I want to thank you very much for presenting this for us. I was recommended to you, and she raved about your programs, that everybody needs to know about your programs, was Jennifer Duvall at Pasadena Community Foundation. She said the person that you need to know about everything that you're doing in Pasadena and for Homeboy Industries in downtown LA is Dr. Mikala Rahh. So,
well, you and I are new friends, because I'm going to try to get my school connected more to the library. That's what I got out of this too. So, I mean, this is going to be a good thing.
Absolutely. It's just a good, we're all there to help each other. Absolutely.
All right. I love this. And I love that you have video. So I'm going to share a screen. And this is my last hurrah with my beautiful daughter singing over my lovely kids. And this was actually recorded by my lovely son. So he's an audio engineer.
Now I've heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. You don't really care for music, do ya? It goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, the baffled king composing hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Your faith was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the roof. Her beauty and the moonlight overthrew you. She tied you to a kitchen chair. She broke your throne and she cut your hair. And from your lips she drew the hallelujah. 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 Maybe there's a God above, but all I've ever learned from love was how to shoot at someone who outdrew you. And it's not a cry that you hear at night. It's not somebody who's seen the light. It's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah.
It's a good place. Thank you very much.
Absolutely a good place. You make a hope for everyone in the world. So thank you so much for all of your time and efforts for all of this. We're all indebted to you. Thank you very much.
And welcome to ArtWorks.
Oh, shoot.
During COVID-19,
Stop.
pretty quiet.
All right. Well, and we are on the art night tour, so we'll see you there. Art night.
Right, we will, and I'll look forward to working with you in the library, with the library in the future. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Michael, kids that need it most.
Thank
We need
you. I love you. I love you, Marilyn. You know that.
You know, love you too.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you again for the library to put this together.
Well, thank you all for coming. Thank you. Thank you.